Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Bradcast Sports, episode number 95. We are 5 episodes away from triple digits. I'm your host, as always, Brad Barco, alongside my very colorful co-host, Vic Michaels. And this time, Vic, you're live in studio. How you doing, Vic?
Yeah, it's been a long time. I just got back from the Calgary Stampede. Things are looking very good down there. They cleaned up the flood nicely, but I'm back in studio ready to go.
You know what, Nick? This is an absolute huge show, and I mean huge. We are going off the charts here. I feel like landing on the moon. We've had everybody from Bobby Ryan to, Braden McNabb in the NHL, and now we've had MLB players, but now for the first time ever, we have an NHL general manager, a former Edmonton Oilers player, Mr. Craig McTavish. Craig, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, Brad. Thanks. How are you guys all doing?
We're doing fabulous, man. Sunday night, it's unbelievable. And, we're very excited to have you on. There's tons of people listening, tuned in across the country, and we're all, excited for the up-and-coming Edmonton Oilers season. And, let me get right to it, Craig. You made your first, I guess, big trade of the summer that was acquiring David Perron from the St. Louis Blues in exchange for Magnus Paajarvi and a draft pick for next year. Just, if you wouldn't mind, explain how this went down, what it means getting a caliber player like David Perron and maybe giving up on a quality talent in Magnus Paajarvi. How tough was that for you?
Yeah, I think it was a good hockey deal between St. Louis and us, Brad. I've talked to St. Louis for quite some time about the potential of making a deal, and we both went into the draft, both Doug Armstrong and myself went into the draft thinking that we were in all likelihood going to try and do something else, but it didn't materialize. and then when I got back home, we reconnected and ended up I think it was a deal that probably fits both teams right now. St. Louis was fortunate enough to sign Derek Roy, and we're probably in the need of a little cap space, so that precipitated a deal with us, and we feel like we really acquired a player that's got a significant skill set and is going to be able to fit immediately into our top 6.
So, just kind of to add on to that, there's a lot of people out there that, wish to one day be a GM of any sport, whether Major League, the NHL. Just maybe walk us through how difficult really is it to make a trade? How does this all go down? Obviously it starts with a phone call, it starts with some chats. But how do you, you and other GMs, 29 other GMs, decide, okay, I want this player, well, okay, this doesn't work for me, so how about this player? I mean, it's always back and forth banter. Maybe walk us through and put us in the mind of a general manager for a minute or two.
Well, I think what happens is, through the course of the last number of weeks, managers are in touch with one another. I would call a team and ask that team what they're trying to do. He in turn would ask us what we're trying to do, whether you're trying to get younger, whether you're trying to shed salary, whether you're trying to get more physical. And then you try and, we all have information about every other team's roster. We have pro scouts that provide us in-depth detail on what their feelings are of in terms of the skill level and the talent level of the opposition, and you try and think if there's going to be a fit there, and you ask questions and get the dialogue going back and forth, and eventually we got some traction in terms of what we wanted to do and what they wanted to do, and just kind of continue to have that dialogue. And it took probably at least a month of discussion before the deal transpired.
So, Craig, we touched on Perron already, but let's talk about another player you guys dealt, that being Shawn Horcoff, the captain of the Edmonton Oilers. I'm sure you've known him for a long time. You had a chance to coach him. How difficult was it to trade a player like Shawn Horcoff? Like I said, he was the captain of the team, a long-time Edmonton Oiler. Was it a little bittersweet trading away a guy that's been here for so long?
Yeah, it was. And I saw Hork grow up as a player and a person. And, when he came here 13 years ago, I think, 12 or 13 years ago from Michigan State, and grew as a player. He was always a guy that was a very hard-working guy, and grew from a guy that was, trying to make our team to a player that was a game away from being the first-line centerman on a Stanley Cup championship team. So it was difficult. I have a lot of respect for Shawn, but I think ultimately, really at the end of the year, Shawn and I had an opportunity to sit down and assess both our situations, and sometimes a change is needed for both parties, and I think that that's really what we mutually agreed upon, and then we set the wheels in motion of trying to enact that change, and I think this is going to be a move that's very good for Shawn, really good for Dallas, the Stars too as well. And I think just when you're in a situation where you haven't won that much, and his last playoff game was the 7th game of the Stanley Cup Finals 7 years ago, so I think you lose a little bit of your spirit as a player, and I think he'll be invigorated by the change, and I think he'll play very well for Dallas, and we have an opportunity that we can turn the page to as well and try and commit those resources in other areas.
So a big story right now in the NHL would be Ilya Kovalchuk and his sudden retirement from the NHL. Now, it seems this has been a thing about Russian players for quite some time, especially when it comes around draft time. It seems like a lot of people are a little eerie on drafting Russian players because there's always that sense in the back of their mind of that threat of them leaving and going back and playing in Russia for the KHL. What does that say for you and other teams around the league? I know the Edmonton Oilers have a young Russian themselves in Nail Yakupov. Does that put a worry in a general manager's mind seeing other high players like Ilya Kovalchuk do a move like that? Or is this simply just a personal issue for Kovalchuk and really doesn't relate to other Russian players?
No, I think it's relative to all the Russian-born players. It's more difficult for players born outside of Russia to make that commitment and go and play in the KHL. But Russian players, there is an allure for the Russian players to play at home, albeit that the NHL is definitely the best and most professional league in the world. I think. But there is that allure to Russian-born players that potentially could really cash in on lucrative KHL deals. So it's something that you have to consider. Our real drafting mandate is to try and draft the player that is going to have the most significant impact overtime on their NHL team, and that's the reason that we took Nail Yakupov with the first pick overall last year. You try and do your homework and see and ask the agent and ask the player through the interview process that and try and determine what the likelihood is that the player would in fact consider going back to the KHL. We had discussions with Valeri Nikushkin this year. He was on our drafting radar. Really, the organization and myself were very comfortable that this player wants to play in the NHL. We talked to his agents, Mark Gandler and Todd Diamond, and they gave us a pretty good indication that the player wanted to play in the NHL. But over time, it's always you see the difficulty that Columbus Blue Jackets had in re-signing Bobrovsky after he won the Vezina. I mean, it's a threat, and I mean, would the KHL love to sign a player like Bobrovsky back and pay handsomely to do that? So it's a competitor, and it makes it difficult for it made it very difficult for the Columbus Blue Jacket management to make a decision, and it drives up costs. There's no question about that. But these are all things when you're analyzing which player to take that are all heavily considered, and you hopefully spit out the right answer come draft day.
So, Craig, we just a couple more questions for you, and we'll let you go. I know
Sure.
you're a busy guy and probably working the phones, but you know, a lot. I've been asked a lot this week, particularly on one player, and I know you probably can't speculate much, but maybe just go into a little bit or tease a little bit. But a long-time Edmonton Oiler, similar to Sean Horcoff, is number 83. Alex Hemsky. Now, there's lots of rumbles around that he could be moved. He might not be an Oiler come September and might be joining another team. Now, is there a market for Alex Hemsky, and how busy have you been, with this guy? Have you had discussions with Alex and kind of found out where he's at, or have you had discussions with any other general manager to possibly get something in return for Alex, or is there anything going on this front?
Well, it's I have had discussions with Alex at the end of the year. I spoke with him about what lays in the future for Alex and the Edmonton Oilers, and those conversations will remain private and confidential. But it's really not my practice to discuss too much about potential deals. I think when we talked about Sean Horcoff being a guy that has gone through quite a period of losing the last 7 years, I think Alex is there too, and that can at times really pick away at a player's spirit and his passion and his ability to believe that our team is going to get ourselves out of it, because it's been 7 years really of some negative reinforcement, so it can be difficult. It's certainly not something that can't be overcome by the player or our organization, but these are when you haven't won, you're going to try and make some changes, and whether Alex will be part of that remains to be seen.
So, Craig, you have made quite a few deals this offseason. You picked up some great depth, a backup goaltender, and a great stud in Andrew Ference. But what are your main priorities left this offseason going into the upcoming NHL season? What are you looking at to improve on this Edmonton Oilers hockey team? Any specific positions or depth players that you're looking to add come the next season?
Not really at this point. I mean, we're going to be active and open for business and listening to any and all offers. that could potentially help our team. But at this point right now, I'm when I sit down and look at our roster, I'm reasonably comfortable that we've made some progress, and reasonably comfortable with the depth of our lineup. Talked about improving our depth in our bottom six forwards. I think we've done that. We talked about improving our defense. We've done that. Improved our goaltending, I think, in terms of where we were at the end of the year with the addition of Jason LaBarbera. So I'm ready to let this group turn this group over to the coaches and see how good we are. And I think that I'm reasonably optimistic that we're going to be a real good hockey team.
We got one last one for you, Craig, and that's one more on Dallas Eakins. Him coming in now, obviously, with some experience, not NHL experience, but him with the Toronto Marlies. How high was this guy on your list to get him on the Edmonton Oilers staff? Whether I know you had him targeted as an associate coach at first, and then all of a sudden it turned into a head coach job. So how did the discussions come about with Dallas Eakins, and he became the new Edmonton Oilers head coach? What really stood out to you that really said, hey, I want this guy to be the new head of my young hockey team?
Well, I coached against Dallas when I coached the year in the American Hockey League. I coached Vancouver's affiliate with the Chicago Wolves, and coached against Dallas, and was highly impressed with his ability to get his players to do things that are difficult to get players to do. I felt I had a high respect for the level of detail that his teams had. They had a lot of success at the American Hockey League level, and just in speaking with him at the end of the year, I really felt like he and I were on the same wavelength on how the game needs to be played. And at that point, I felt like I considered making the change to Dallas. I mean, notwithstanding the respect that I have for Ralph and the job that he did under pretty difficult circumstances. I really felt like Dallas was a guy that I identified with better, and it was a difficult decision for me at the time. But I really feel like I've got a guy that I identify well with, and is going to identify well with the players. He's got great interpersonal skill. But at the same time, and I think our fans have seen glimpses of this through the brief media exposure with Dallas, that he does have a significant amount of bite as well as interpersonal skill. And I really feel like this guy had the ability and had the talent to be a very, very good coach at the NHL level for a great period of time. I think that he has a lot of similar qualities to Dave Tippett, who I would say would be as revered as any coach in the National Hockey League. And I think there are going to be ups and downs for Dallas and our team over the course of his tenure, but I really feel with this guy in charge that he's a real good representation of what I envision for our team going forward. And we're happy to have him, and look forward to my association with him for many years.
All right, just before we let you go, Craig, it seems every time we have a discussion with any kind of female out there, they always say Craig McTavish is a really handsome man. So probably the most important question before we let you go tonight, how do you get the hair the way it is? What kind of products do you use, and what kind of tips can you give us here at Bradcast Sports?
Well, I talked in detail with Brad about that when I saw him at Millennium Place the other day, and he asked me to be on his show, and we were both marveling at each other's quaff. No, not really. But no, I think it's been a pleasure to be on your show. I could sense Brad's passion for Oiler hockey, and I'm happy to have been on the show, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to chat about hockey, maybe not so much hair product in the future, but we'll have an opportunity to talk a little bit about Oilers hockey as the season goes on, and want to wish you guys all the best with your radio show.
Thank you so much, Craig. And we'll get you on again as hopefully maybe as the season rolls on, or maybe next off season when you're not so busy. And like I said, thank you again on behalf of everybody here, and have a great night.
All right, Brad. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you too. All right, guys. That was Craig McTavish, Edmonton Oilers general manager, and some high praise from Craig about the show, and that's good to see.
Yeah, definitely a stand-up act, that Craig McTavish. We couldn't quite get in there for the hair products, so I don't know. Was it a success? We didn't quite get his hair gel, but
yeah, I don't know.
we got some good questions in there. Had to keep it respectful. I know there's a lot of fans on Twitter and whatnot that would like to grill the man, but he is doing his best as the Oilers GM. And like you said, trades, they're difficult things to do. And just because the Oilers faithful don't believe in everything he does, I still do believe Craig McTavish is doing a fine job.
You know what? Oilers fans are very, they're very hard on players, on coaching staff. And you know what? Hey, so be it. I mean, that's the way we are. Our passion here in Edmonton, here in oil country. But hey, 2 thumbs up right now to Craig McTavish. He's done a absolute, wonderful job with what he's got. He came in kind of in a sticky situation. The Sean Horcoff contract, it just the $5.1 million, had to go. He had to dump some salary. We didn't expect much of return. Philip Larson's going to be I believe, a stud defenseman. He'll play in OKC in my mind, starting next year. And you know what? This kid's got some great upside. So I think it was a great move for both teams. I wish Sean Horcoff the best of luck in Dallas. I think he'll excel. And you look at the other additions. I mean, Jason LaBarbera, a great veteran backup. I think will help mentor Devin Dubnyk a little bit. He knows he's not going to get much playing time, but hey, when the opportunity presents itself, Jason LaBarbera is going to be there to back up the Edmonton Oilers and to do a wonderful job. I was reading a tweet earlier from I won't mention names, bashing Boyd Gordon. This people say he's overpaid at 3 years at $3 million. Give this guy a shot. He's going to be an excellent third-line center for the Edmonton Oilers. Eventually, he'll work his way to the fourth line. And this guy just a wonderful leader. He kind of reminds me of Sean Horcoff in a way. He gets down, he's willing to block a shot, and this is what the kids need in Edmonton. Boyd Gordon's a great addition, but in my mind, the steal of free agent day was Andrew Ferentz. I mean, this guy is just an absolute horse on defense. He can, I believe, help out Justin Schultz a little bit. Whether they play together or not is a different story. But Andrew Ferentz is a great addition. He's a local boy as well, so coming home for 4 years, and this is just a great signing by Mac T. And let's not forget David Perron. This is another guy who's got a knack for the net. He gets in the dirty areas, and he goes straight up the middle of the ice. And, hey, with a guy like Neil Yakupov feeding you the puck, you wouldn't ask for a better guy. And I believe Craig McTavish will add 1 or 2 more pieces before the start of the season. I don't believe it's Braden Coburn. I mean, I've heard a lot of that, Braden Coburn out of Philadelphia, and I just don't think it's possible.
Yeah, how about Craig McTavish? What a way to come out and one-up Steve Tambolini. I don't remember Steve Tambolini coming on Bradcast Sports. So there we go, Craig McTavish making a very bold move coming on here tonight, risking it all, getting asked those tough questions. But yeah, like you mentioned Boyd Gordon, I think the biggest issue fans had with that deal or that pickup is exactly what you said. He reminds you a lot of Sean Horcoff. when we had Sean Horkoff, who was the captain of the team, long time older, a guy who really prided himself in this organization. So I think just the perspectives of some people is, why would you bring Boyd Gordon in for Sean Horkoff when they're very similar players? Now, I know Boyd Gordon is younger. He's going to come cheaper. But still, it's almost like Sean Horkoff's tenure with the Oilers and his veteran leadership would make up for the age and monetary gaps. But with that said, Boyd Gordon's still a great pickup. Andrew Ferentz can look to bolster that defense here at Edmonton. Of course, Jason LaBarbera. Anytime you get a goalie that big, it's pretty tough to score on.
Hey, you know what? It's been an interesting offseason already for Edmonton and Craig Mack. It's been very active, and I suspect he remains active. We want to thank Craig again, and of course we want to thank our loyal fans for tuning in to this big episode. We made history, episode 95, and you know what? We have another big guest next week, next Sunday, 9 p.m. local time, 11 p.m. for you guys on the East Coast, episode 96. For Vic Michaels, I'm Brad Barco. Thank you again, and good night.